Converted Man here. I wrote about this on my blog, but I need your input. I really do. I'd rather die and be wrong. I'd rather believe in God and die being wrong than not believe in God and die and be wrong. With the assumption, the belief that your afterlife somehow is intertwined with your belief in God, that God cares what you believe, and that God rewards you for believing in it with an afterlife. But of course, if there isn't an afterlife, then it doesn't really matter if there is or isn't a God. And certainly one could conceive of a God without an afterlife or an afterlife without a God. These things, I suppose, are as possible as any other thing, that even if they are possible, and I don't know that they are. I'm not sure how an afterlife would function. There'd have to be some mechanisms to it. And I don't know what those would be, because the only sort of mind that I know of is one with a brain. So once you have no brain, I don't know how you would know anything. And so how there would be an afterlife with you included is something that I have no idea how that would work. Now, that doesn't mean it's not there. I don't know. I don't have any beliefs about it one way or the other. But the idea that if you believe in God, then if that happens to be true, and if God happens to want you to believe in it in a certain way, and you happen to believe in God in the right way, then you can get this wonderful reward of a bonus round. But if you die and you're wrong, so what? Well, at least you, what did you lose, really? What did you lose? Well, you lost out on the truth, right? If you believe something that's not true and you die, well, you died believing something that wasn't true. And doesn't the truth matter more than a belief does? But this ingrained idea that certain religions have come up with, and not just Christianity, some others as well, where they say, well, if you believe in our God in this way, in a certain way, you say these certain words, you perform these certain actions, if you do that, then you get the reward. If you get water put on you in a certain way and you say certain things and you tell God how much you love it and you worship it and you do this X, Y, and Z, and you donate 10% to the church on every Sunday, then you get in, and if you don't, then you don't. Oh, all right. So it's a belief stacked on a belief. You believe in a God, and then you believe in an afterlife, and then you believe that God cares about what you believe, and that God only rewards you if you happen to believe in the right thing. And this makes perfect sense to the believer. This doesn't seem illogical or rational for the believer. It's like, well, if I'm wrong, what do I have to lose by being wrong? Because then you just die, so what? Who cares? Well, I care because it's what's true, what's real. And if there was a God, why would it care what I believe? Why wouldn't it just tell everybody about itself? It was so wrapped up in convincing people that it existed. Because is it just about belief, or is it about obedience? And see, this is the other thing that theists, or certain theists, seem to get confused. Well, the demons know, and they shake in their boots, or they're scared. They know that God exists. Absolutely, they know. But they can still rebel against God. So there's still free will, even if you have knowledge of God. Otherwise, the disciples who got to know Jesus and figured out that he was God, or the way to God, or whatever, well, they didn't lose their free will, did they? So the hiddenness of God is really weird. There's about 8 billion people on this earth, and only about 3 billion of them are Christian. So about 5 billion people are screwed. That's just today's statistics. They're not even talking about all the history leading up to the events that happened in Jesus' time. And, of course, well, and then happened afterwards, because it takes time for the story to go from one place to another. So all the people that were alive in Africa when Jesus was filling out in over in Judea, Nazareth, and kicking it over there, they had no idea about Jesus. They didn't know anything. So when they die, where do they go? Do they go to heaven? Or do they get punished because they weren't born in the right place at the right time? What all about the people before Jesus that didn't know about Yahweh, didn't know about the correct God? What happens to them? The story doesn't really go into those details, does it? Why? Well, probably because they didn't think about it. They didn't think about what God would do for everybody else. That doesn't matter. What matters is you're covered, you're protected. This is a limited God that humans certainly have invented. A God that is able to show itself to a small group of people for a limited amount of time and then buggers off. That's the God. Jesus was another cult leader who was made so legendary that he became a god, and people worship this thing and pretend that he's still alive out there in heaven, and that you can only go through the Father through him, and so you have to believe in a certain way, or else you're screwed out of the afterlife. Or worst case scenario, you do get an afterlife, but it's a bad afterlife, and you're stuck there. Isn't that lovely? Yes, 6 billion people screwed over because they didn't choose the right religion. Why? But they didn't know. Maybe they never even heard of it. Maybe they heard about it, but they were already stuck with their beliefs. They don't want to change what they believe. So why would God set up this system? Well, the answer I got when I asked that question was, that's just how he set it up. But I said, but why? But why? But why? Because you can always ask why endlessly, right? But I was trying to get to the point of look, you don't know why this system was set up, because it doesn't say why in the story. It doesn't tell you why. It doesn't explain why God would do it this way as opposed to some other way that would permit more people to come in, to join the group. Because that religion isn't set up that way. It isn't a worldwide revelation of God. It is a human-wide revelation of a type of God that people have made up. And they also made up the idea of that if you care or believe in God, then you get the wonderful bonus. But if not, punish time. So people get caught up in this. I'd rather die being wrong, because then at least if I was right, well, then I get the bonus round. But what if you believe in the wrong God? And you have the same mentality. I'd rather die and be wrong about this God, but I thought it was a real God. And you find out, oops, it was a different God, and that God says, well, time to punish you. Pushes the red button, you drop through the floor's trap door, and you're like, well, wait a minute, this isn't fair. And God's like, well, but you had a choice. You heard about me, but you never bothered to look into it. Yeah, you didn't know it was going to be Shiva the Destroyer. Whoopsie. Too bad. And that makes perfect sense. Perfect sense to the believer. That they'd rather die believing something, even if that thing isn't true, because on the off chance that it is, then they will get the reward. I don't want to die. Not for a while, at any rate. I don't know how long I want to be, but 1,112. That sounds like a good age. Sure, why not? By then, I'll get bored of everything. But that God would want you to believe in it in a certain way and not tell the whole world how to do that all at the same time. That makes, again, this goes back to my video, God makes no sense. But I didn't know what to say to this person that said, I'd rather die and be wrong. I really didn't. I struggled with it. And I'm still struggling with it. And that's why I said, I need your help. Give me some ideas. What should I say? There doesn't appear to be any logical way that I can outline to dismantle this idea because it's so ingrained in them. So it's frustrating. And I'd love for your ideas about what response to give to somebody that says that they'd rather die and be wrong. I mean, what can you say to that? And I said, well, don't you care about what's true? Well, yeah, but I mean, what's the point? We're all just going to die, and then what? And it's such a nihilistic way of viewing. It's like, yes, but it matters what we think to us and to others, and it matters. The truth matters, doesn't it? Well, why? If there's no God, then truth doesn't matter. Yes, it does. It still matters. Why would truth not matter with or without God? Why would, it's just more beliefs stacked on beliefs, all in an effort to keep the believer believing because the religion dies if the believers don't keep believing in it. The religion dies out and it goes away and it's replaced by something else. So I don't know. I any thoughts on what do you say to this? I'd rather die and be wrong. Well, whenever that mortal coil ends, I don't have any particular beliefs about gods or afterlives or whatever. And whatever reality happens to be, there's nothing I can do about it. I have to accept the reality that I'm presented with. I can't just believe in God for the off chance that maybe there's a God that actually cares about that I believe in. I can't just believe in God because it feels nice or it seems good or it's a cool idea. No, I need evidence. I need the same sort of evidence I have for everything else, and I don't have that. So I can't just believe in God. And if I'm wrong, why would God punish me for following the instincts that it gave me? That makes no sense. Again, well, God doesn't have to make sense, does it? But the afterlife also doesn't really make sense. But the idea that you'll keep believing this belief because just in case, just for fire insurance, really? Is that really all that's keeping your belief afloat? Is because you hope by believing it that you'll get the bonus round? I don't know. And I don't know really, again, I don't know what to say to this person. I don't know how to respond. I can break it down. I can do that logically, but it's not gonna matter because it's this embedded belief on top of another embedded belief on top of another one. So whatever your ideas are, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. What is the response to this? How do you respond to it? So let me know what you think. That's all I've got for now. And until next time, be skeptical. And after that, stay skeptical. And post your comments so I have an answer to this question. Thanks.